Ramchal was done by Rabbi Chaim Friedlander, who was the Mashgiach Ruchani of Panovich up till, I think he passed away about 25 plus years ago. There is a whole set of Ramchal books that are in Hebrew bound in a distinctive green cover, and I mean, there's much more than has ever been translated. To my knowledge, the Ramchal books that are translated are the Shoran Der Hashem, Das Tabunois, my book here, the Klach now, and Rabbi Avram Satan has translated Mamar HaGeula. But there's an enormous amount of stuff that has not been translated. It's all the bibliography was done by Rabbi Friedlander, who spent years working on the manuscripts and clarifying the nusach.
I was sorry, but I didn't say it correctly. I wasn't saying what was translated or not translated. A number of his works were completely burned.
Oh, I believe so, yes.
Right. I'm saying, is there any listing that we have?
I'm not familiar with the details of that. But
right, just once he got into the mode of saying that this was basically dictated to him by Malach or by Eliyahu, all of a sudden the fear factor came in and everybody's names.
But are you saying that there were books that they burned every extant copy of? There's nothing surviving of?
And they burnt a lot of stuff that you'll never get.
The question is, what was lost? We know what was lost.
Right.
It is lost. Yeah.
But you know, Rabbi Nachman has an amazing Torah on this subject about why the books of the great tzaddikim get lost. In the temple, if there's a soita woman, an unfaithful wife, so how is she tested? She's tested by writing the curses of the soita that are written in the Torah, the parasha we had a few weeks ago, Parashas Nosai. The priest has to write the verses on the parchment and put it into the water and dissolves, and she drinks it. So the Chachamim said that through the woman drinking the bitter waters, when she's proven to be innocent, so she doesn't die from the thing, so this restores the woman to her husband. And the Nachman explains that the idolatry is not something simple. Idolatry contains avodah zarah, and the deepest philosophy as far as why they did it. But Nachman said that if the literature that was written by the idolaters, and this includes the literature that was produced to justify the golden calves of Yeravam ben Nevat and Achav and all of the Malka Yisrael, all that idolatry, it all had literature, it all had reasons why, and they weren't just bowing down to a brick, they had reasons why they did it. So the Nachman said that if this literature had survived, we would not be able to stand up to it. It would be completely, I mean, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin that Menashe could darshan the Torah in 55 different ways. Yerovam could darshan the Torah in 87 different ways. These guys were master Talmid HaChomim, and if we had their take on the Torah, it would destroy us.
Wow.
And so this literature had to go out of the world. All the literature of the Epicurus had to be destroyed, and it could only be done if there was a izun, a balance, zero mazel, solokim. The one has to be against the others. So they had the svarim of the tzaddikim had to go out of the world. It's inconceivable that Rabbi Akiva didn't write voluminous svarim. All the Tanoim. It says that there were some. If we have today 60 masechtas in the Mishnah, they say there were like 800. And Avram Avinu, it's all disappeared. So it all has to disappear. So all this is the concept of dissolving the Megillah of the Soita woman into the waters. In other words, when the Megillah, what is written, the Divrei Torah of the Tzaddikim are dissolved and they disappear, this makes peace between Israel and our Father in heaven. This is what enables Israel to make tshuva to Hashem. And this is the concept of the Sota woman who is cleaned by the dissolving of her parasha in the water. So that is the loss of the writings. I mean, Rabbi Nachman also. There was I'm going to be talking about the Megillat Starim on Monday night here on the Upper West Side. But there were other works that the Rebbe himself burned. There's a book called the Sefer Nisraf. When the Rebbe was in Lemberg during the visit, I mentioned Lvov. So one day his attendant comes in, and the Rebbe is weeping, crying, sobbing, and the attendant says, "What is it?" And he's crying because he has to leave the world, and he's not finished yet.
Wow.
It's the only way they can stand the world. There's a manuscript that he wrote, which was his highest high, Rosin, the secret and secret. And only if they would burn that book would he be able to stand the world.
Wow.
And so he sent his shamas, on horse riding hundreds of miles just to get back to Breslov. Told him exactly, which cabinet the manuscript is. Take the key, take it out and burn it. The whole thing is described in Chaim Moran, in the book Tzaddik. Reb Nosson writes the whole story. And in other words, we have a similar story about the Baal Shem Tov when he was going to be shipwrecked, the famous story, and they lower his daughter Odel into the sea, and she says, "No, bring me up. If you'll throw my father's manuscript into the sea, I'll be able to be saved," and throw over the whole boat. And the reason is because he's going to have a great grandson who's going to write greater writings than him, and that is Reb Nachman. That's the story where the Breslov was tell on the 7th day of Pesach about. So in other words, a big mystery as to why works of the tzaddikim have to be lost.
Our vessels can't handle it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you just explain the thing you said about Sota? I came when you already started. I didn't quite get it.
So
about the erasing.
The essential thing that purifies the Sota
I know
woman.
what the procedure is, but what was the point you were making?
The point is that the concept of the scroll of the Sota,
Right.
which has words of how can you rub out the name of Hashem? The Torah says, "Do not erase the name of Hashem."
Right.
How can you erase it in the water? You put it in the water, all the ink dissolves, and you erase the name of Hashem. And the Chazal said, we're allowed to do this, to take this terrible step of erasing the name of Hashem in order to purify the Sota woman for her husband. Her husband suspected her of infidelity. He doesn't know. When he sees that they dissolve the curses and she drank it and she doesn't suffer, he knows that she's clean. And the same concept is that the Sota woman represents Israel, and the husband is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In order to purify Israel for her husband, we have to dissolve the Torah scroll, namely the writings of the tzaddikim, in order to clear Israel of the suspicion that she fell into idolatry from all of those atheistic writings.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stop very quickly. You have not went to Eretz Israel.